It started like any other morning on Lorraine. The pastel lights glowed softly. The set felt warm and welcoming, that signature comfort millions tuned in for. Lorraine Kelly sat poised in her chair, a cup of tea beside her, ready to charm her viewers with another cozy celebrity chat. But what was about to unfold would be anything but cozy. "Please welcome the legendary Sir Cliff Richard," she beamed, her smile wide, voice sparkling with enthusiasm. The audience applauded as Cliff walked in, his presence calm, confident. A man who'd lived through fame, scandal, and survival. Dressed in a light gray suit and blue shirt, he waved to the crowd and took his seat. "Morning, Lorraine," he said warmly, that timeless charm intact. But beneath the smiles, the tension was already brewing, unseen, unspoken. Lorraine's questions began lightly: music, legacy, memories. But there was a tone, a hesitation in her voice when she said, "You've had your fair share of controversies, haven't you, Cliff?" He paused, smile fading just slightly. "We've all had storms, Lorraine," he replied evenly. "The difference is, I weathered mine in public." The audience chuckled softly, unsure whether to laugh or hold their breath. Lorraine leaned in, her expression tightening just a touch. "Yes, but not everyone comes out of a storm spotless." The room changed, subtle, chilling. Cliff's eyes narrowed, still calm, but the spark in them shifted, from warmth to steel. This wasn't going to be a morning chat. This was going to be a reckoning, live, raw, and impossible to look away from. The air in the studio shifted, just slightly, but enough for everyone to feel it. Lorraine straightened her cue cards, her trademark smile now a little tighter. The producers in the control room exchanged nervous glances. Something in Cliff's gaze said he wasn't here to play along. "Well," Lorraine continued, her tone soft but edged, "the public has always been divided about you, haven't they?" Cliff leaned back, his posture calm, but his words deliberate. "Divided? Maybe. But the truth isn't a democracy, Lorraine." The audience let out a low murmur, unsure if they were watching an interview or a standoff. Lorraine tried to keep it light. "Oh, I'm not judging. But people do talk. You know how it is." He smiled faintly. "People talk when they don't have the courage to listen." It landed like a quiet explosion. Lorraine blinked, caught off guard, her fingers tightening around her cue cards. "I think what they're trying to say," she pressed, "is that fame doesn't erase mistakes." Cliff's smile faded. "No, but it does reveal who wants to define you by them." Silence. The crowd wasn't laughing anymore. This was no longer a celebrity chat. It was truth cutting through politeness. Lorraine forced a laugh. "Oh, Cliff, you're getting quite deep for morning TV." He leaned in slightly. "Maybe that's what morning TV needs. A little truth with its tea." The audience gasped softly. Lorraine blinked twice, trying to recover. But it was too late. The power dynamic had shifted. Cliff Richard wasn't the guest anymore. He was in control. Lorraine Kelly forced a bright smile, the kind that barely hid irritation. The control room's tension was audible through the producer's headset. What was meant to be a cheerful plug for Cliff's new album was now teetering on the edge of something raw and dangerous. "So, Cliff," she said, her tone suddenly colder, "this new record, it's all covers, isn't it? Some might say you're just replaying the past." Cliff looked up, his expression steady, but his eyes sharp. "Honoring the past, Lorraine. There's a difference." "But after 6 decades," she pressed, her smile turning tight. "Don't you ever feel it's time to move aside? Let the next generation take over?" A ripple moved through the audience. Some gasped softly. Cliff blinked once, slowly. Then, he spoke. "Music isn't a cue, Lorraine. It's not about who's next. It's about who still has something to say." Her tone hardened. But surely even you can admit there's a point when reinvention starts looking like desperation. That word, desperation, seemed to slice through the studio air. Cliff leaned forward, his voice low, calm, but laced with steel. Desperation is pretending kindness while trying to humiliate someone on camera. The audience went dead silent. Even Lorraine's practiced grin faltered. Her cue cards trembled slightly in her hand. "Well," she said, trying to laugh it off, "someone's a little sensitive this morning." Cliff shook his head. "No, just tired of seeing respect treated as weakness." There it was. The line that changed everything. The one that split the air like thunder. For the first time in years, Lorraine Kelly looked cornered on her own show. The silence after Cliff's last words stretched longer than any producer could handle. Lorraine's team scrambled behind the glass, whispers, quick camera switches, nervous eye contact. But on screen, it was just the two of them. A legend defending his dignity and a host trying to reclaim control of her own show. Lorraine took a deep breath, flashing that polished morning show smile again. "Cliff, it's all just a bit of fun," she said lightly. "You've been around long enough to take a joke, haven't you?" Cliff didn't flinch. "I can take a joke," he said, "but I don't mistake disrespect for humor." The crowd murmured. A wave of uneasy laughter rolled across the set, then vanished. The warmth was gone. You could feel the studio lights burning hotter, the air thickening like storm clouds before rain. Lorraine's eyes narrowed. "You know, I've interviewed hundreds of stars, and most don't take themselves quite this seriously." Cliff leaned back, his voice steady, precise. "Then maybe that's why most of them aren't remembered." The line hit like a bullet. A pause, then applause, soft, scattered, but unmistakably in his favor. Lorraine's cheeks stiffened, her smile frozen. "All right," she said quickly, flipping her cue cards. "Let's move on to your little tour, if it still happens, that is." That jab was her last defense, but Cliff wasn't playing defense anymore. He leaned forward slightly, looking straight into the camera. "It will happen, because my fans still believe in sincerity. Something television forgot a long time ago." The control room panicked. Lorraine tried to cut to commercial, her voice cracking slightly. But it was too late. The audience had chosen sides, and it wasn't hers. The moment the cameras cut to commercial, the set erupted. Producers rushed in, crew whispered frantically, and Lorraine ripped off her mic, her smile gone. "What the hell was that?" she hissed. Cliff sat still, calm amid the storm. "Honesty," he said softly. "You invited it," Lorraine shot back. "You embarrassed me on my show." He looked at her, not angry, just disappointed. "No, Lorraine, you embarrassed yourself. I just stopped pretending." She froze. The words sank deep. Around them, the control room lights blinked, the director shouting for a reset. But the damage was done. Every phone on set buzzed with the same message. "That clip's already online," a sound engineer whispered. "It's trending. Already." Lorraine's jaw tightened. Cliff stood, straightened his jacket, and said quietly, "You wanted a headline? You've got one." As he walked off, a camera operator muttered, "That man just destroyed morning television." Lorraine stayed seated, staring at the empty chair where Cliff had been. Her reflection in the camera lens looked different. Exposed. The commercial break ended, but she wasn't ready to smile again. Within minutes, the clip hit social media, raw, unedited, and viral. The caption read, "Cliff Richard puts Lorraine Kelly in her place. Live." It spread like wildfire. On X, hashtags #OurTeamCliff and Morning Meltdown trended within the hour. Millions watched, rewound, and commented, dissecting every word, every glance. Some called it legendary, others called it disrespectful. "You can see the exact second she realizes she's lost control," one tweet read. Another, "That man carried class into a room full of fake smiles." Morning show fans were divided, half defending Lorraine's legacy, half praising Cliff for bringing back authenticity. News outlets replayed the exchange on loop. Reaction videos filled YouTube overnight. By sunset, Cliff's new album, the one Lorraine mocked, had shot to #1 on pre-orders. Meanwhile, Lorraine's producers quietly disabled comments on the show's official page. That single confrontation had done what no PR stunt could, expose the illusion of daytime television. And as Cliff sat at home, sipping tea, his phone buzzed again. Another headline, another wave of support. He smiled softly. "Truth still works," he whispered. The next morning, Lorraine walked onto her set with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The usual sparkle of easy laughter was gone. Cameras rolled, lights burned bright. But something had shifted. She opened the show with forced cheer, but the comments section told the real story. Thousands of viewers demanded an apology. Others called for her resignation. Sponsors quietly reviewed their partnerships. In another part of London, Cliff was being celebrated. Radio hosts praised his composure, calling him the last of the gentlemen. Even critics admitted he hadn't attacked, he'd stood his ground. By midday, Lorraine finally addressed the controversy. "Sometimes," she said softly, "in trying to be entertaining, we forget to be kind." It wasn't an apology, but it was close enough for television. Cliff watched the clip later that night. No gloating, no bitterness, just a quiet satisfaction that truth had spoken for itself. He closed his laptop, leaned back, and whispered, "That's the thing about respect. Once you lose it, it's not the audience that forgives you. It's time." The storm had passed, but morning TV would never sound the same again. What happened that morning wasn't just an interview. It was a mirror. A moment when truth tore through the polish of television and reminded millions what authenticity feels like. Cliff didn't shout, he didn't perform, he simply stood his ground, and the world listened. Moments like these don't fade, they echo. Because deep down, every viewer saw a piece of themselves, tired of fake smiles, craving honesty, respect, and courage. If stories like this remind you that real still matters, stay with us. Because we're just getting started. The next story dives even deeper. Another clash, another truth unfiltered. Subscribe, stay tuned. And never forget, the microphone may go silent, but the truth always finds a way to speak.